Hello, fellow digital forensics analysts. You are here today to learn about analyzing random access memory, which from here on out we will call RAM. To begin, you must first make sure you have a USB drive that is both empty and big enough to capture your entire RAM. For example, if you have 16 gigabytes of RAM, you should have at least a 32 gigabyte USB drive. This will leave you with enough space to do the RAM capture. Now that you know a little bit about how much RAM you have in the relation to the amount of USB drive storage space you need, we can now continue on to actually capturing RAM. Please select one of the USB drives around the workstation and insert it into the workstation. You should find a USB that has FTK Imager, RAM Capture, Test Disk, and FTK Imager and RAM Capture zip file in the drive. If you found this USB, we can now continue. First, we want to open up the FTK Imager and locate the exe. Give it administrator access. Now, opening FTK Imager, we are able to capture RAM. First, you want to press File, Capture Memory, and then we want to select the destination path. If you remember previously, we saw on the USB drive that there was RAM capture folder empty. This is where you're going to save any RAM capture you might create. Select that folder by selecting Browse, and now press OK. After that, we're going to want to wait some time while the memory captures. Depending on variables like what you have open on the system and what you've been doing with the system previously, this may take some time. So I'm going to pause this and resume when it's finished. Hello again. We're back, and I just wanted to say that this RAM capture is not complete yet, but I made the classic mistake of having a USB drive that was too small for the amount of RAM my computer has. This drive has a 32 gigabyte storage, and my RAM is actually 32 gigabytes. So I would need to have a bigger USB drive. And as you can see, my RAM is actually going to dump 37 gigabytes because of the page file. Even though I did not select it, it still automatically has that included in the RAM. So we're going to go ahead and cancel this. It's going to give us a RAM file we can look at, but it's not going to save the entire thing. So if you were wanting to capture the entire RAM, which you would want to if you're going to be looking at everything on the computer and hoping you would find what you were looking for, then just to make sure, to reiterate, you need a USB drive that is at least double the size of the amount of RAM that the computer has. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to cancel this. We're still going to have a file. It's just not going to contain everything that's currently live on the RAM. Now with the RAM capture complete, we can now move on to actually analyzing it. If you remember, the RAM was stored on the USB drive. And as you can see, we stopped it just in time. My USB drive only has about half a gigabyte or 500 megabytes remaining. So the RAM capture was saved in the RAM captures folder where we put it, and you can see it's around 30 gigabytes. We're going to move this file to the test disk photo rec file where the actual analysis is going to happen. You don't want to do any analysis on your USB drive itself. It'll slow the process down considerably. Now that we have it copying, I'm going to stop the recording again, and I will resume when the copying process is completed. Because as you can see, this is going to take some time, and we're not just going to stare at the screen while it copies. But we're going to continue with the analysis of the RAM capture after the pause. Alright, so as you can see, the RAM file has actually completed copying over to the test disk photo rec folder. It's right here, and this means we're actually ready to do some analysis on the RAM capture. So to begin, we're going to want to open a command prompt window. To do that, you just want to hit Start or select the Start button and type in CMD we're going to right-click Command Prompt and run as administrator. Next, we're going to want to do a simple change directory command into the test disk photorec folder. To do this, simply copy the file path, type CD into the command prompt, then paste with Control-V into the command prompt, and press enter. Now we've changed the directory into the test disk photorec folder, and we are ready to do the next step. Next, we're going to enter the command photorec_win.exe and then the name of the RAM capture. This is again going to just be default what FTK named the memory dump, but you could have technically named it whatever you would have liked, and you can change the name now, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to use the default. And again, this command is photorec_win.exe, and then again the name of the RAM capture, mem dump, sorry about that, .mem. Now photorec is loaded, it's in the right path, and it is ready to do some analysis on the RAM. Alright, so first we're going to select some basic parameters. Let's close this window out. We're going to proceed. Now we're going to select some file options. Here, photorec gives you a ton of file options. You might recognize some, you might not. For instance, BMP, a bitmap image. There's doc files for looking for Word files, which I have that selected. There's actually just a plethora of things that you can search for through the RAM capture itself. Well, I'm happy with just searching for a doc file, for instance. You can, however, search for everything by pressing S, or you can press B for selecting just one of them, and you use the arrow keys to select. So the X's indicate they're selected, and no X means they're not selected. So again, S selects everything, or you can just hit S to select nothing, and then just select what you want to select, and then you press B to save that setting. Well, again, we're just going to leave doc selected, which we're going to make sure it is selected. It is not, so we're going to save that with B. Okay, quit. And now we're going to actually search this RAM capture. Since we are in the Windows file system, we're going to select Other. And this is the directory that we're going to want to save in. As you can see, this is the test disk, so it's going to save on the actual computer, not the drive itself, which is what you want. So you're going to select C. And now it's going to search the RAM capture to see if it can find any docs. As you can see, it's already found one. I am now going to stop the recording, as this is going to take some time. And you can see it's finding a plethora more of doc files. And this is what we want. And then you would look through these doc files, or actually any file you selected, and see if that was the file you wanted. And again, this will take some time since it's 30 gigabytes of RAM. So I'm going to stop the recording and resume so we can show you some of the output. Alright, so the RAM capture analysis is completed. So we're going to open the test disk photorec folder and see if our results are there. It should be in a directory named recup_dir. And it is, and since this is the first one we're doing, it'll have the, it'll be number 1, which it is. We're going to look, and look, we selected doc files, and we got doc files. But we also, which is a little weird, but those things can happen with a program, we got PowerPoint files as well. Again, if you were looking for something, you'd have to go through each and every one of these files to find if it was specifically what you were looking for. Like this one's pretty large. It might be something that we want. It's corrupted, so it's not something we can look at. This one's pretty large. Let's see if it's anything. Let's see. And again, it looks like it's corrupted as well. These RAM captures can be very finicky, but this just shows you that it did recover files and the program did work. So if you have any other questions, please ask the instructor in charge of this workstation. However, that's it for the RAM captures.